3, I think we'll kick off. Just a very, very warm welcome from me. Hello, everybody. My name's Andrea. I am also known as the Slow Coach. I am a running coach based in St Ives, just north of Sydney. Very, very glad that you could be here with us tonight when we're going to chat about sleep. And in just a few minutes, it will give me great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Cheryl Fingleson, who is an expert sleep coach. But just before we get to that, if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to spend probably a bit less than 5 minutes telling you a little bit about the Slow Coach and what I do, and why it's a little bit different than most other running programs that you might have encountered. So welcome. As I said, tonight's rundown on sleep is part of our Slow Learners series, which is just a webinar series that we started during lockdown to give ourselves something to think about, something to talk about on a very broad spectrum of topics around running. The Slow Coach was a running movement, an idea that formed in response to what I perceived as a need for a wider, more inclusive conversation about running. Running and runners are awesome, but when you're standing on the outside looking in, it can be very intimidating. Runners look a certain way, they talk a certain language, and if you have a different body type, or you haven't historically been active or been an athlete or been a runner, it can feel very hard to know where to start. So the Slow Coach is just really an expression of my own experience of running, which is that running has got nothing to do with how fast I can run or what I look like. Running has been an avenue to confidence and good mental health and friends and exploring local neighborhoods and finding where all the good coffee shops are. Running gives me time to think, it gives me time on my feet, it sorts out the knots in my head. It gives me time to rehearse difficult conversations I need to have with a boss or a child or whatever the case may be. Running is therapy, and running, in my experience, has got nothing to do with how fast I can go, which, by the way, is not very fast at all. So I qualified as a running coach and just set up a group where pace is never the primary focus. We embrace every goal, every level, and every body. And I'm also proud to say that I am a finalist in our local business awards for 2021. So that is very gratifying and just shows what the power of a small idea can be. So if you are local to the St Ives area in Sydney, you would be very welcome to join us at our Running Behind groups. You can see a picture of us there training on the St Ives Village Green, of course, when we're allowed to, when we're not in lockdown. It's generally a small group that trains on a Monday at 7, a Wednesday at 5 in the evening, or a Thursday at 9:15 in the morning. And I always stress that you are very welcome to bring your babies, your children, and your dogs on a leash, because I know how hard it can be to build an active lifestyle around children and family and logistics. And as I've said, it's for all levels and all abilities. We are allowed to resume group training very shortly on about the 13th of September in groups of 5 for anybody who is fully vaccinated. I am a registered COVID-safe business. Now, if you're not local to Sydney or the St Ives area, there is also an online training option. The ground running membership package was set up to be an option for anybody really, as I said, who wants to explore running, but can't find a program that supports slower, bigger, older, and injured runners. So for just $55 for a whole year's access, you'll get a one-on-one consultation in which I'll design a running plan specially for you. You'll get a lot of really awesome community and support, and some pretty significant discounts on races and gear, which add up to being more than the value of your membership. There's also a knowledge center, videos, articles, and blogs that have been curated especially for slower runners like me. The discounts that I've already touched on include a lot of discounts on gear, 10% off the Run Faster brand, 20% off Abby and Joseph, 10% off Active Truth. If you are local to St Ives, 10% off shoes at the Shoe Guru. Race discounts on most of the mainstream major races in Australia and quite a lot of international ones too. And more discounts coming online all the time. So make sure you keep an eye on our page. If you'd prefer the option of training one-on-one, which we are allowed to do at the moment, I offer that too. And obviously you get a very strong personalized focus. So you might have a goal of just being able to run for the phone without running out of breath, or you'd like to run 2 kilometers or 5 kilometers, or maybe you're training for a half marathon or whatever the case may be. You'll get a very personalized focus and a bespoke training plan. Generally, the one-on-one training sessions consist of about 30 minutes of warm-up, strength and mobility, and then a 30-minute run session where I will run alongside you and pace you. And that might be a combination of walking for a minute and running for a minute, and we repeat that, or something a little bit more intense, just completely depending on what you want and what kind of day you're having. One-on-one clients get access to all the available discounts, and at the moment those sessions are $60. So I'm nearly at the end and I'm very grateful for your patience, but there are huge benefits to being a member of the Slow Coach community. We are a very inclusive, supportive bunch, and we really, really celebrate each other's successes. When we're allowed to, I offer free social runs. So those you can bring your husband, your kids, your dogs, your neighbors, your grandparents, whatever, everybody comes along. You can walk, jog, or run, and we always finish with a social coffee, usually in a different part of the area for each run, so we get to explore the local streets. There is a WhatsApp group where you can ask questions or organize a running buddy. And of course, there's the Slow Learners webinar series, which at the moment is taking place roughly once every 2 weeks. There's a monthly newsletter, and you'll have access to all the webinar recordings. Okay, if you have any questions, if you'd like to explore a little bit more, please visit my website, runwiththeslowcoach.com, or send me an email, hello@runwiththeslowcoach.com. Okay, so, not that yet, we will get to the questions at the end. So thank you for your patience. That's it for the commercial messages. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Cheryl Fingleson. Cheryl is an expert sleep coach. She is known all over Sydney as a baby whisperer, but she also works extensively with adults and corporates. And she's here to talk to us tonight about how important sleep is. It's a massive pillar of wellness. Sleep and nutrition are as important as training when you're a runner, or just a really crucial element of being a functional human being. So whether you're a runner or not, I'm sure she'll have a lot to tell us. If you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat, or if you're feeling brave, just unmute yourself and ask. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Cheryl Fingleson. Cheryl, over to you.
Welcome, everybody, and a special thank you to Andrea. I always feel so privileged when people ask me to speak on this subject of sleep, because we cannot function without it. And at this point, I have to say how proud I am of Andrea, who set her goal and just achieved it. In awe of you, Andrea. Congratulations. 50, you turn 50, you run 50 kilometers. Amazing.
Thank you very much. That's very kind.
Well done. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of how I got into what I do and how important it is for all of us to know that sleep is a necessity. It's not something that we take lightly and not, really not do it with complete sincere honesty. Andrea, oh, okay. Anyway, okay. So what we really need to know is how I got into this story of my life. So at the age of 12, my father passed away. I went into depression. Nobody knew what depression was. I then got through life got married and realized how important sleep was after going through what I went through. So in order for us to really have the resilience, the physical impact that sleep has, and knowing that people today don't put enough value on sleep. And I have to say, when I did have my children, there was no such a thing as postnatal depression. Nobody knew what that was. So what happened, all you had to do was have a pill, whether it was a pill for this or a pill for that or a pill to sleep. And it really was a very tough time for me. So my first son was born 49 years ago. And so he was born in whatever, sorry, I've got a block. 4 years after him, my second son was born. Then 4 years later, I had two boys, twin boys. And when they told me I was having the twins, I, of course, was over the moon to think that I was going to have twins and 4 children. But unfortunately, I went into early labor and the boys were born. The one little boy, Mark, was very small, had a heart defect, and he had heart surgery. He was the smallest baby that had had heart surgery in South Africa at the time. And 6.5 months, he just could not fight any longer, and he died of pneumonia. And of course, my focus was on this other little baby who was 6.5 months, and my other 2 boys and my husband. And I just wanted to make sure that I could protect them from everything possible that was in my control. Then, unfortunately, at 2.5, Clive died tragically. And our whole world obviously crumbled. And what happened then, when I was so focused on my children, I then forgot about my well-being and what I had to do. So I was running on pure adrenaline. And what was happening, they were giving me medication so I could sleep, because unless we sleep, we cannot function. Anyway, 33 years ago, we left South Africa and we came to this lovely country, and I had a husband who was dreadfully unhappy, and 2 children that cried for their friends back home. And I just had to be the pillar of strength for everything. And I just powered on, did whatever I could to make sure that everybody was okay. So I'd like to introduce you to my beautiful family. So those are my 4 boys. My little baby I brought home for one day. I was able just to bring him home for one day, which the hospital let me just to satisfy my need. And that was gorgeous Clive and Larry and Mark. That's them sitting, loving their little brother Clive. And that's the 3 boys. That was when we went on our last holiday. And these are my 2 gorgeous boys that are obviously the delight of my life. And they have given me 5 gorgeous grandchildren. And thank goodness for them, their wives, and my grandchildren. It's made our lives so full. And we just treasure every day that we can spend with them and watch them grow. So now, after going through everything and pushing on and hardly ever sleeping, maybe sleeping a couple of hours a night, what happened to me was my body started telling me it was time to stop doing what you were doing. As a result, I have lupus, which is an autoimmune disease, which is caused from lack of sleep. And why is it caused from lack of sleep? Because only when we sleep does our body heal. And I have some other autoimmune disease as well, caused by this pure lack of taking care of myself and having this constant adrenaline rushing in my body. So what I really want you to understand, that our lives are made up of 4 pillars. And I know that Andrea has covered a lot of these already because they're so important. Now, depending who's doing the talk, they will think theirs is the most important. So I will say that sleep is the most important. Good mental health is important. Nutrition is ultimately important. And we know that exercise is important. Now, which of those do we push away when we are short of time? Very often it is sleep that we're pinching time from. So in order to look and understand sleep, we need to understand 4 further important points. And that is our sleep window, drowsy but awake, routine, and consistency. Our sleep window is when our body is telling us it is tired. So we have a dip in our energy, in how we're feeling. Because at night, melatonin is released, which is our sleep hormone. And that's when it's easiest for us to go to sleep. Now, our biological clocks are between 10 and 11, bar Sally, but other people, it's between 10 and 11. So we want to work with what's right for us. So when we're feeling tired, we want to head for the bedroom. Drowsy but awake is don't fall asleep in front of the TV, or if you're working, have a little 10-minute nap and then go off to bed. You want to do it at the right time. Routine is ultimately important for our bodies, for our well-being and knowing what we want to do. So, for example, it would be dinner. Then we would have a shower or a bath. We would relax with music, yoga, or whatever you find is the most relaxing for you. And then the last one is consistency, because our bodies know if we constantly do the same thing, we can adjust to the correct timing and amount of sleep that we need. Now, for most of us, we need 7 to 9 hours sleep a night. That is for our body to actually repair completely. Now, I've got this diagram up. I hope that you can see it, but I am going to explain it verbally as well. So there are 4 stages to our sleep. So our sleep cycle goes through 4 different stages every 90 minutes. Children go through every 45 minutes. So every 90 minutes, provided you are having a good night's sleep, we go through REM and non-REM sleep. So the first stage is non-REM sleep, where we go into a very light sleep. Now that light sleep, you actually can hear noises and things around you, but you don't really worry about it. Now we go into that stage for about 5 to 10 minutes. That's when we start to relax. The second stage, we go into a deeper sleep for about 30 to 45 minutes. And that's the stage where we start to relax, our body temperature relaxes, our heart starts to slow down, our muscles relax. That's when you've had a good run and then you're in bed and you're starting to relax and your foot goes or your arm jumps or something like that. Those are your different muscles that are starting to relax and, you know, go into a deep sleep. Now, if we need to nap during the day, which sometimes somebody may need to, we don't want to get past this second stage of our sleep. So we want to make sure that we sleep for less than 45 minutes, because if we do sleep longer, it's much harder for us to wake up without feeling groggy. So we want to just get to that 20-minute, maybe 40 minutes. The third stage is our deep sleep. And that's when we go into, we call it the slow wave sleep. This is the most important part of our sleep. So why is that so? It's because this sleep is when all our hormones are released, when everything is repaired in our body. So our brain waves are pruned. So all those areas that we're not using of the brain are nightly pruned so that the brain cells are ready for new areas to develop. Then the last stage is a rapid eye movement, which is REM sleep, where we have our eyes moving and we're coming out of that sleep and coming out into the, you know, waking up. It's at this fourth stage that we dream so vividly, where you wake up and you think, am I dreaming or aren't I? And I see we have a man on, well, we did have a man on the, on this in the session, but this is the stage, this fourth stage, where the blood starts coming back into our system, where you'll often find your husband like, where are you? I need you now. And that's when you get up and go to the bathroom. But that's the stage where the sexual urge comes into the person's body, and it usually affects men much more than women. So what happens is we need to go through these various stages in order for our actual body to repair and heal itself. So sleep deprivation is like torture. I'm sure we all know when we're so desperately tired, it's so hard to function properly. What is the impact of not sleeping? Stress is a huge thing. When we don't sleep, we find that we are so stressed. Inflammation in the body, because we're not getting time for it to heal. We're less alert. Our memory is foggy. So we just find it so hard to actually get through the day. We always have the problem of weight, at whether you're so exhausted that you're eating incorrectly, or you're so exhausted that you want to eat more because you think it's going to give you more energy. So we want to be very careful. It's very tricky that not looking after your sleep, how much it can affect your weight and diabetes. A huge thing is depression. So what actually happens, we start to worry that we're not going to sleep, and depression doesn't help, because what happens is we may fall asleep and then we wake up and then we're really worried that we're not going to go back to sleep. So it becomes a real cycle. So if you're going to nap, we want to be very smart about how we nap, and only nap for that 20 to 40 minutes, and always try and do that before 3:30 so that we're ready for everything else. Now, a big thing is exercise good for you, with a big, huge tick. It is so important that we do some movement. And exercise definitely helps with anxiety and depression. And with things at the moment, with COVID and everybody having additional pressures to what they normally do, we really want to do exercise. So regular exercise definitely helps. It releases feel-good endorphins, which act as a natural cannabis to our system. So we definitely don't want to stop that, but we do want to be careful that we don't do very heavy exercise at bedtime. Because in order for us to go to sleep, we need our body temperature to drop. And doing excessive exercise just before bedtime doesn't help you go to sleep. So exercise definitely will help our mental health. And especially at the moment, I would love you all just to take a moment and see if any of these things you are going to say yes to, because maybe we need to reassess how you are and see if maybe you do need a little bit of help. And remember, there is professional help. So with Andrea doing what she's doing is so huge for so many people. It's amazing. So if you can't do it one-on-one, as she said, there definitely is, it is online. So let me just ask, do you have the heaviness in your chest? Do you find your heart rate is pumping? Have you got shoulder and neck in pain? Are you suffering with headaches? Do you really grind your teeth at night? Are your jaws sore? Have you got shortness of breath? Are you feeling dizzy? Do you feel dizzy often? Do you get up and feel dizzy? Are you feeling very tired, anxious, and depressed? If you're answering yes to many of those questions, please take a moment and see what you can do to help yourself. So ways to turn off the worry would be live in the now, because we really do have those problems. Don't try and embrace yourself with all the bad stuff. And unfortunately, I find that is so much of what we're doing. Everything is COVID, the numbers, the this, the that. So give yourself permission to worry, but then give yourself permission to say, that's enough now. I'm going to move forward. So let's all think positively and beware that we don't distort our feelings. So sleep is as important as the water we drink, the air we breathe, the food we eat. We don't give up on any of those. Let's not give up on our sleep. So with good sleep, we have clarity, focus, all the things that we have discussed, but you can see it sometimes when you read it, it sinks in a little bit more. There's breathing exercises that we can do, yoga, meditation, soft music, all those type of things are far better to do than to do your heavy exercise at night. Just to touch on menopause, because I think we have a general age here of the young, older, can I say, I don't want to say middle age, so whatever, the young people. So menopause is a stage in our lives which is very difficult because lots of things happen that are different to other people. So no two people have the same feelings and the same symptoms. And what happens, the estrogen and, I always get this wrong, progesterones, there I did it. The progesterones are all altering because some of us are not menstruating anymore. Some are only every now and then and every couple of days. And this starts to affect our sleep. So what happens is the estrogen is declining as we are menopausing, and what happens is these hot flushes. And by having these hot flushes, it's so difficult to sleep at night. And we do get more hot flushes at night because there's so many reasons. Our mood, anxiety, again, there's depression, which also comes in with menopause. And we really need to make sure that we are 100% looking after ourselves in whatever way is necessary. Just on this hormone and the changes in people's lives, you know, Ash Barty, I think all of us were just hoping that she would now win at the Olympics. She's done so well, and the Olympics is like, all these are ultimates, but this is just something that comes every four years. And this is unfortunately what happens with women. She could have been menstruating. She could have had a problem. And as we get older, the levels of the hormones and the swings are so different. That's why when men are at their peak, they can stay there. Where with women, we get emotional and there's so many changes. So we have to be so aware that we're looking after our sleep. So explore natural options, lavender. If you're hungry, because this is sometimes what happens, we get really hungry in the evening, don't go for caffeine and things like that. Go for a nice smoothie. There's so much you can use, all the different milks that are so much better. Bananas and cherries. Cherries are good, it's melatonin. So be careful what we choose, and be careful what we choose to eat. Habits to avoid: alcohol, caffeine, cigarettes. What happens with alcohol, it relaxes you, but then you have the dip, so you wake up and you're not able to go back to sleep. So please be careful. Alcohol is not a good thing for nights if you're battling to sleep. Make your home, your bedroom, your oasis. So try and keep all your work and everything out of your bedroom so that you don't go to bed worrying about what you've got to do the next day. Keep, during the day, get out so that we can get the right light, so we get our circadian rhythm and everything at the correct time, and we're not getting the wrong things at the wrong time. So there are some people that are early birds and late owls. You have to find out what's best for you and work according to your body. A little tip: when you're working out what time you need to go to bed, work out what time you have to be up in the morning, and go back 7 or 9 hours, however many hours you need. Don't cut short on your sleep. Sleep is essential for everything. Thank you. Any questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And anybody got any questions, please either unmute or write in, whatever it is.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Cheryl. I really learned a lot. That was so interesting. I just want to, on a personal note, thank you for your generosity of content, but also acknowledge the loss of your 2 beautiful boys. And also just thank them, because it's really because of them that we are here tonight to learn from the incredible life experience that you built on because of that loss. So thank you very much for the courage that it took to do all of that. I'm also just quietly chuffed that there is a cycle called the slow wave sleep, because being the slow coach, anything that's slow appeals to me. So yes, I would just invite anybody who has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself or just pop your question in the chat. I will just kick off a little bit. Cheryl, I would just like to know a little bit more about sleep and menopause, if possible, and also how, if there is a bit of a relationship between sleep, menopause, and running, and how can we go about finding a way through this, what feels like a form of madness at times, trying to, cope with hot flushes and changes to our sleep schedules, and still finding time to exercise and cope with our families and all of those things. Have you got any tips for us?
Well, what we do have to do is make sure we don't give up on our exercise. So 2 things we don't want to do is give up on our exercise and give up on our sleep, because those 2 indirectly work hand in hand. Because what happens is very often we're not feeling like we love ourselves. So it is easier to just stay in and eat our way to sadness because it's not happiness. Because we believe by eating, you're going to make yourself feel better, but we don't, because we're eating all the wrong things. So we're having highs and lows. So by getting out into the sunshine and running or walking or whatever it is, and more importantly, meeting people. So you're meeting like-minded people, which is better than any medication. So in saying, what can we do to help? If it's really bad and you need medication, obviously you need professional help. But where can we help? We definitely can help by watching what we eat. So diet drinks, caffeine, all those type of things don't help us when we're going through menopause. We really want to try and eat healthy food. And as much as we don't like to believe it, that is the age we do spread a little more. So by eating doesn't make us feel happier, but I'm not saying punish yourself by not eating. So we have to find that happy balance and happy eating. So exhausted, sleep deprived, and not liking your body is not a good combination for us. So what we've got to do is go and meet these groups as soon as we can, or get online and have your Zoom meeting with your coach or whoever it is, and just help yourself through that. Because when your estrogen drops, there's a whole lot of emotions that change with it. And it's, we're normal. And that's why to be able to say to somebody, oh, I can't believe this, it's hot. What used to happen with me, I would sit and say, oh, I'm absolutely boiling. Everybody would look at me, and 2 minutes later, I'm putting my jumper on. And you don't even realize that you're actually doing that. So
there are some questions popping up in the chat. Sally wonders if you have any tips about snoring. How come some nights people snore and other nights they don't?
Okay, there's a few things. If you've been drinking, that definitely does encourage snoring. If you've had a heavy meal before dinner, that definitely encourages snoring. If we're eating the wrong foods that don't really agree with you, it also can have it can affect us. And if you're absolutely exhausted, sometimes you go into that deep, deep sleep and we snore. What can we do about it? There are various things. If it's your husband that's snoring, you can put a cushion over his head. A little push or whatever. It's really what happens as you get older, the back of your throat, the muscles relax, and then they start hitting against each other. So there are mouth guards and things like that, but we just want to hope that it isn't sleep apnea, that whoever it is snoring is not holding their breath. So the person next to them, just check that they're not holding their breath and, going into a bad sleep.
Now, Kirsten, I happen to know she is unfortunately affected by COVID at the moment. She lives in South Africa, and she has said it could be post-COVID brain, but I went to bed at 8 o'clock last night, exhausted and looking forward to a good night's sleep. But at midnight, I was still tossing and turning. What do you do in this instance? Do you give up and watch television? Do you take a sleeping pill? What do you do when you are clearly tired, but you can't fall asleep?
So there are different breathing exercises that we can do to get you out of your head, because that's also what happens. We get in our head. The thing is, it's back to the same thing, Kirsten. You need your sleep. And you may need to sleep during the day, which you're not allowing yourself to do for whatever reasons. And as I said, when we're not well, the only way we get better is by sleeping, because our brain has to go through those different processes in order for us to heal. So what is the best thing for you to do? I would say, especially with the fog brain, I would say you need to have a nap sometimes during the day. And then you will not be so overtired. That overtired, that sick feeling that you're feeling is pure adrenaline running in your body. So you need to be kind to yourself and let yourself sleep. So to answer your question, if you cannot go to sleep, get up, go and make yourself a cup of tea, and then go back to bed, or read something absolutely boring that will bore you to tears, and you will be able to go back to sleep. There is no point in lying and tossing and turning in bed, because all you're doing is getting more and more in your head. There's a couple of things I'll quickly tell you. I don't want to keep you too long, but there is one breathing exercise. We call it a 3-3-3. So what you do is you lie and you 3 parts of your body, you say. So head, shoulders, knee, and you do that nice and slowly with a breath in between, and you do it again. So what we've got to do is think of what we're going to say. So we're not thinking of we've got to go to sleep. We're breathing in, head, out, in, stomach, out, in. So do you see what I'm saying? It's always threes, a 3-3-3. The other one is the 5 game, where you can think of 5 things in your room. All we're doing is getting out of our head. Another one is deep breathe. So you're not breathing from your chest, you're breathing from your tummy. So you breathe in deeply, hold, and breathe out. So there's the 4-7-8. We breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and breathe out for 8. So you have to count when you do it, which is getting you out your head. So it's literally breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out for 8. And you will find you get a little bit dizzy until you get used to it. And we keep doing that. That's a great one. Even if you're in the car, or one of your kids or your husbands have really got under your skin, you just do it. Nobody can see, but make sure you breathe from the tummy, not the chest, because then you hyperventilate.
Wow, great tips. Thank you. I think we've got time for one more. And there's a question about checking our technology. So is it a good idea to check our social media just before we go to bed? And does this affect our sleep at all?
Half an hour to an hour before bed, I like you to switch off. I don't like you checking your emails just before bed, because if there's something you've got to do, of course, that plays on your mind constantly. So leave your technology away. Let's try not looking at your technology. Let's see that we keep this safe haven completely free of anything that's going to take our minds and set them off. If you find you've got a lot of things to do the next day, or wake up in the middle of the night worrying about what you've got to do, what I suggest is get a pencil and paper next to your bed and jot them down. If you write it down, it's out of your head because you know that it's there in the morning.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Well, I think that probably brings us almost to time. I'm just popping contact information details on the screen right now. You will receive a copy of this recording in a couple of days, together with all the contact information for both myself and Cheryl. If you do have any questions that we didn't get any time to answer tonight, please feel free to send those through to either of us via our email addresses or our social feeds. I can see a few thank you notes popping up in the chat already. So from everybody, and especially from me, Cheryl, thank you so much for your incredible insights, your expert knowledge, and just the authenticity and generosity of spirit with which you spoke to us tonight. I learned a lot. I hope that everybody really enjoyed it. And I think hopefully we will all sleep a little bit better tonight, and I'm certainly looking forward to that. So yes, lots of thank you notes, lots of very interesting. That was really interesting. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and effort, ladies. Thank you. So lots of great notes. And on that note, I will just invite you all to tune in again in about 2 weeks' time, when we will be discussing the link between mood and food, as well as running. And just remember that if you have any questions about running or sleep or anything we can help you with, both Cheryl and myself are available. So thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Cheryl, and thanks everybody, and have a really great evening.
Thank you.